William ra orif I rôl nua atá agah agus banam ma ceist go sunrach le chóras hIarnród Éadrom de Catherine na Galway agus Kendall chun céine atá genta. Congratulations to the two new ministers and I wish you the best of luck. My specific question is what progress has been made in relation to the rollout of light rail in Galway as one of the essential parts of the solution, one part to the traffic congestion in Galway?
Thank you very much, Deputy Connolly, and thanks for your kind words. As you are aware, the National Transport Authority published a light rail feasibility study for Galway in October last for information. The study was prepared as part of a mode-specific analysis undertaken for the development of the Galway Metropolitan Area Transport Strategy, which the NTA is developing in conjunction with Galway City and Galway County Council. A strategic roads facility study has also been undertaken. The findings from both studies will be used to inform the development of a new multimodal strategy alongside recommendations for active travel, bus services, railroad and demand management measures. The light rail feasibility study has shown that there could, under the right conditions, be a case for developing a light rail system for Galway. It should be noted that any future light rail project in Galway will only be advanced subject to funding and securing relevant government approval under the infrastructure guidelines. The feasibility study is not intended to specifically identify a preferred alignment of a light rail corridor in Galway. Instead, it explores key issues of potential feasibility. Route options will need to be explored in more detail during any subsequent process of options assessment and development. The feasibility study will form part of the evidence base used as an input into the development of the new Galway Metropolitan Area Transport Strategy, which will be subject to a full environmental analysis and a public consultation process in due course. Implementation of any recommendations identified in the new strategy will be subject to the availability of funding, as might be available under the relevant National Development Plan. This plan-led, long-term and multimodal approach to transport infrastructure delivery is in line with international best practice. It is important we consider a metropolitan area transport requirements in the round rather than through a narrow prism of one specific mode, and I accept what your question asked. I look forward to working with the Deputy to improve the transport in Galway.
Thank you, Minister, but I think transport couldn't get any worse in Galway. I think you'd agree with that, with traffic congestion. I welcome this a multimodal approach. I welcome that there's going to be a plan. But let me just give you my experience. The transport plan that became law in 2016 was already dated and outmoded, given the increase in the population, given the promised increase in the population, and given our obligations under climate change legislation. I gathered with a small team on the streets of Galway. We didn't take one signature online. We gathered 24,000 signatures back in 2018, crying out for a feasibility study. That was eventually done by the last government. I welcome that, and it was finally published to say it was eminently doable. So if you see further down, and it won't be reached tonight, I have a question on Park and Ride. The sustainable solutions in Galway have never been rolled out. So Park and Ride still remains up in the clouds, even though it was enshrined in the City Development Plan 20 years ago on the 1st of February. So if you could give me some dates in relation to the promised Metropolitan Area Plan. Thanks.
Thank you, Deputy, and I do understand your frustration when you talk about this particular project for our problem we have in Galway, and I hope that we will be able to find solutions. And I think one of the frustrations is that we spend a lot of time on strategies, we spend a lot of time on plans, and we need to spend a little bit more time on implementation so that we actually see the improvements reaching the people on the ground. And just to say about the light rail feasibility study, that was published last October for information, and it was prepared by experts in international transport. So it is a study for information, but it's also to inform planners on the best way forward. But we have to wait for the roads strategy, a feasibility strategy, to be complete as well. And as we all know, the outer ring road, which is there, will be going back into on board plan order with the FI information from Galway County Council. But I expect next month or the month after, that's going to take another year. So there is a huge frustration in everybody that comes to Galway or works in Galway, and I think it's important that we try and move to getting some measures in place to try and help. Thank you.
You know my views in relation to the N6 project. There are sustainable solutions to the traffic congestion in Galway, and we're under an obligation. If you listen to the radio interview this morning in relation to the billions we're going to pay in fines for failure to comply with our obligations. So we have Galway, one of 5 cities destined to grow, and we have no park and ride, although it was put into the city development plan on the 1st of February. It became law in 2005. So I have to keep repeating this because the people of Galway, through the councillors, put forward suggestions, but they were never implemented. So you have to ask yourself, why was Park and Ride never implemented over those 20 years? Light rail, the feasibility, I know exactly how long it took. And thank you for mentioning it and looking at it as a possibility. It has taken so long. And then the extra, you're behind the Western Rail Corridor. I fully support you on that. These are all sustainable solutions that will allow us to comply with our climate obligations.
Thank you, Deputy. And you're right. And I mentioned earlier about the fact that our rail infrastructure is being developed in Galway, with the Kent station being developed at the moment. We have the Planning Commission got to do the passing loop in Éadrom, and it is important that we create better connectivity into the city, but also that we create a city which you can move around in comfort. And I do believe that on the issue of the park and ride facilities that were planned and were approved by the councillors, I will be checking that out, and I will be meeting with the executive in both the city and the county in the coming weeks to see exactly where we are in terms of implementation. Thank you.